so that you can make a good flow with the person. A lot of the times they will have some set questions, but if you found something interesting about the organization that you can use specifically with their example or highlighting your own experience in light of what a company's need is,
right,
that's really quite useful. The other thing, the basics are, find out what the mood of the company is. If it's a very pristine, small C conservative company, you might want to make sure that you're just a little bit more, business-like in your attire and in your demeanor. The other thing is, don't forget that it's a sales call. Really, this is your first sale, and you're selling yourself. And the way you sell is you try to mirror or become a bit of a chameleon. In terms of, if that person is a little bit more open, a little bit more warm, you do it, mirror them. Okay, if they're a little more stiff and they want to keep right to the facts, then keep to the facts.
Right.
That's what they're doing. So you have to be able to duck and weave a little bit. Try not to, everybody's nervous at an interview, and they understand that, especially when it's a first interview in a few years, and people will understand that. So sometimes you can, a smile goes a long way.
Right.
Eye contact, so that's, to be honest. And you can't, it's unfortunate, but it's still, first impressions are so important. So make sure you're on time, you come dressed professionally, you come willing to keep your responses about yourself brief and to the point, and make sure you've done your research and are compelled with 5 or 6 really good pointed questions about the job or the company. Absolutely. So that you can really, the whole point now you've got the interview is, okay, now it's a field of about 6 people, so you need to beat those other 5.
Absolutely.
And so you have to stand out. And those things I think will help you stand out in that smaller crowd.
Definitely, and I think from the sounds of it, Tracy has a lot of great experiences to
Agreed.
pull on. The service industry is very, very tough. You've got phenomenal abilities to deal with conflict, to deal with difficult people, the organization that goes into serving jobs. You've got a lot of skills that you can demonstrate to an employer of a lot that you bring to the workplace. So I think a little bit of research and you'll be fine.
You hit on a great point. People shouldn't undersell some of the experience that they've had on frontline, service industries, volunteer, public speaking, teaching, tutoring. All of these things are fantastic experience that if you just take it a little tangentially, you can apply it to all sorts of different aptitudes, different conditions in working and everything. And you can use them as examples, specific examples, because that's what employers are looking for. Specific examples on how you can take your own aptitudes and apply it to their business.
And I think that's a great point. A lot of days now, employers are using behavioral-based interviews where they ask questions, tell me about a situation when, tell me about a time when. That does not have to be a high-paying, equitable job for what you're applying for. That can be as a soccer coach, as a waitress, as a bartender, and people forget that.
Absolutely, and drawing on that experience where sometimes the service industry can be very stressful. Everybody's dealt with that difficult client,
definitely,
or with a boss in a bad mood. And how do you diffuse that situation?
Absolutely.
And how have you done it to make it an advantageous situation for you? And I think that's the key, is to really try to wring some of that value that you've got, because it's there.
Absolutely.
It's just a lot of people don't look hard enough or try to look at it from a different angle as to where that value is. They just look at it as flipping burgers, as if they've never had any
challenge.
Exactly, or any other good experience out of that.
Yeah, it may not be the job task itself, but it's that work environment that you've learned from.
Right.
Definitely. Great. Tell us a little bit more about some of the things Biotalent's doing to reach out to employees to encourage them to join the biotechnology sector.
Well, we go through a lot of trade shows and job fairs. So we put out our booths and we try to talk to a lot of people and to see what they're looking for and to see what their expectations are too on the job front, because sometimes when you're a new grad, you've invested 4 or maybe longer if you've got a master's degree experience, and they really want that job right now, and the expectation can be really high. So it's sometimes to try to mitigate that expectation with the understanding of what the competition is like.
Right.
Also to give them some information where they may have gotten a lot of, their expectation is to work in the pharmaceutical industry, but perhaps the pharmaceutical industry is a little depressed right now. Maybe they have to take a look at other geographic areas to work in biotech. Biotech is vibrant in about 5 major clusters across Canada.
Okay.
Two of them that are thriving right now is in Saskatchewan, which is leading the Canadian economy in growth, and in the Maritimes, where you've got agriculture, you've got aquaculture, a lot of these industries that are quite thriving, and maybe thriving more in these verticals than others. So to keep them informed as to where the jobs are and where to hunt. Sometimes it's not here in Ottawa, sometimes it's in Montreal or it's in Saskatoon. and to keep that front of mind so that they get a little bit more knowledge of the industry, so that they're throwing their darts at a more receptive dartboard, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And you bring up an interesting point when you talk about managing expectations. And I think that's something you hear a lot about with some of the generational differences. And every generation has its strengths and weaknesses. But the current generation of graduates gets a little bit tainted in terms of having expectations that may not be in line with reality. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's true to a certain extent, but I think it's also a question, they also have expertise that businesses require and don't have. Social media expertise.
Yes.
That kind of expertise. The networking, it's incredible. Ability to take on new technologies and thrive in an era of change.
Right.
That's a wonderful aptitude to have. And if you can use your own experience and your aptitudes, such as, I've got Twitter, I've got 485 followers, and LinkedIn, I've got 40 people who've recommended me in these jobs, to show that you've really mastered some of these things and that you can use them and apply them to a business since you've applied them to your own expertise.
Right.
Again, taking a different look at an existing skill and using it for another, I think that's really, really useful. And I think with new grads, they've got that opportunity.
Absolutely.
But they just have to, now it's to try to knock on those doors that have been previously closed or ones they've never seen before.
Absolutely.
That may have that potential.
Well, I think that's the whole challenge of what we've been talking about
Exactly.
today is this generation's been told from day one that everyone's going to retire, the jobs are going to be there for them, and they will be. It's just been delayed.
And I think the expectations is that somebody, long ago, the days, I don't know about yourself, we were talking about this earlier, that 3 to 5 career changes in a lifetime. I mean,
very much so.
You might work in biotech now, you might work in high tech tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And you might be back, you might work in sales today, you might work in finance tomorrow. Who knows? The main thing is to get yourself in a place where you've got that potential to expand in
Right.
whatever direction presents itself.
Absolutely.
But to expect that you're only going to be in sales in biotech for the next 35 years, I think that's a pretty unrealistic expectation. And I think the good news about young people is I think they understand that was the expectations of their parents and grandparents.
Definitely.
Not theirs.
No, I think it's viewed as an opportunity for great experiences, new challenges, and to never be bored.
That's right. And I think they have to make the most of that first opportunity. Some of them squander it. And I think that's where some of the bad brand comes. Where they people who don't quite get it. To be able to make the most of that first opportunity. So if we can turn more of them around, I think it'll be really worthwhile.
So if you actually had this opportunity that you do have to speak to those new grads, what would be your advice about looking for that first opportunity and seizing that first opportunity?
I think you have to look at other places that people aren't looking.
Okay.
I mean, going to monster.com or going to LinkedIn, I mean, it's wonderful, but everybody's going there.
Right.
So I think they have to look at different opportunities. Places like Invest Ottawa, the
Right.
former Oakry, provide wonderful networking opportunities for tech positions in small and medium-sized enterprises.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where the growth, that's where even the governments are expecting growth in Canada. Those are the real job makers.
Right.
They're not the big national firms. It's the small ones. And they're often overlooked. So if that was the one piece of advice I would say is don't overlook the small medium-sized enterprises.
Absolutely.
They're great grooming grounds for mentors, for networking, and to start at an entry-level position. And it could be just, and I don't say just, but as an admin assistant. And then working your way through that company and being able to leapfrog because you've now got the year of the company or the year of the CEO.
Absolutely.
So
I fully agree, and I know myself, I've seen many graduates going to Chamber of Commerce events for exactly that reason. It's a great chance to talk to business owners, business leaders, and no, they're not there necessarily to look for a job, but they're there to network and seek a mentor.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to look back, even if they're new grads, there's no reason why you can't go back to your alumni association.
Definitely.
To all of these different things that from the place that you know very well, your post-secondary institution. All of those things are quite opportunity. Go back and coach at your whatever it is that you're thinking of, or help out at your high school to get some of that experience that'll set you apart.
Absolutely. Well, Rob Henderson, Executive Director of Biotalent, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Next week on Working in the Capital, we're actually going to be talking about the challenges and opportunities with new immigrants in the workforce. You can call us with your questions at 613-728-1001. Go to rogerstv.com to email your questions or send us a message on Twitter at @HRBlueprints. Take care, and we'll see you next week. That was okay?
Yeah, it was great.
I felt like I stuttered.